today I'm making some headway on my kitchen flooring. And one of the tricks I can tell you is these heat guns. They're highly adjustable. It goes up to 1100 degrees. Be very careful because the end gets very hot and you can burn yourself. Be aware of where you set it, because if you run into it, you're going to get burned. I got a good burn on my wrist last week. So what I've got going on here is this area has already been pre-cleaned. When I took the old 12 by 12 self-adhesive or sticky tiles off the floor, it left this sticky residue on the floor. And I should have got right at this flooring project then in the summer, but we couldn't really do that with the timing and everything else that was going on with the house. So over time, as we walked on the floor, all the dirt from our feet, tracking it in on our shoes, was sticking to this, and it just looks terrible. You can see this dark area in the high traffic space. So I'm happy to scrape off, by heating up with the heat gun, all this sticky residue and dirt, and I just scrape it into a pile and get it all off. Now, rather than work on the whole floor in one big section, there's always some sticky left behind. I go as far as I think I'm going to go for a few tiles. I put some tiles down and I make sure that I come plenty far over from the tile so that I'm not going back to re-clean any area next to a tile, because I don't want any melting and damage done from that. So I should make some good headway today on this. I'm in a section of the floor now in the dining area where I'm going to be using quarter round molding next to my floor trim. So it's going to make it a lot faster going because I don't have all those fussy cuts to have to do. I am going to have some cuts around the edges just because it's not going to end up as full squares. When you do floor tiles, you want to lay it out to make sure that you're not going to have a sliver left at the end. Little 1 and 2 inch pieces. I did have a little bit of that going on by the sink, and that's okay. And with these floor tiles, you can put them down right next to each other, or you can do it with some 1/8 inch spacing and fill in that space with grout. I really like the way the grouted tile looks. A little more finished, a little higher end. I really liked the tiles that I chose for the bathroom, and I couldn't find those again to replicate that same floor in the kitchen. So this is something similar, a lot more gray to it. And it's a good DIY thing to do. I really didn't want to have to manhandle and seam a roll of linoleum, and I am not a hire it done kind of person. We do all this handiwork on our own. This is a special floor scraper that I got, and you can use it this way or flip it over and use it that way. I find it's a lot easier on my wrist to turn it over and push forward. It also has a threaded handle, so you can use this with the wood floors. There's a company in our area called Mr. Sandless, and with the Mr. Sandless, he comes through, spreads the chemical on, and scrapes it off, which I could have done with this as well, but I really didn't want this porous wood to be soaking up any material because it's not like a finished wood floor. Another flooring suggestion that some people do is they'll use a floor primer before they'll do their sticky tiles. I find that it sticks really well just with this. The tiles I took off were at least 15 years old, probably more like 18 to 20 years old, and none of them were lifting on their own. I had to take every single one off. And I also had the help of my son at the time doing that on a warmer day. So it was good to get that off because it's not so fun to do it when it's cold. So as you can see, that only takes a minute. But look at all the dirt and adhesive that came off off of the floor from scraping that. There is no way the sticky tiles were going to stick to that much dirt. Okay, so that's all the prep work and getting the floor ready for the new tiles. I have to do some fitting here in the corner for my next tile, and then we'll be able to move right along into this section. So a lot of times when you tile a floor, you end up with cuts around the edges, and it's just something that's going to happen. You just want to make sure that you're not going to end up with those small cuts in random places. And because this is a renovation job where there is door trim and it goes to the floor, you can use a Japanese pole saw. This multi-tool is by Performax, and I tell you, I think I paid $39 for this. I have used it on so many projects already that I wish I would have gotten it when I started the whole renovation, because it would have made a lot of jobs quite a bit easier. And taking off trim is not really advised. It tends to break, especially the way my husband puts it on. He will nail this section to this section right through the corner, and when I go to take it off, I forget that he's done it because it's been 15 years. So I've actually damaged some of the floor trim, like when I did the bathroom. So it was better for me to leave it on, and I'm going to do quarter round along the edges to hide that, and any edges that are going to be visible around the door openings. You can either use a flexible caulk or use some of your grout when you do that. Quarter round. If you are unfamiliar, this is called quarter round. They take a round piece of a dowel and they cut it into 1/4 sections, and this is what quarter round is. So I've got different sizes of gaps. You want to make sure you get the quarter round that's going to fill in your gap, I would say, with the most minimal impact. Now, a lot of times this colonial casing is very plain looking, it's very simple, and it's real nice compared to the ranch casing I have in the other room. Adding this quarter round can give it a slightly different look, a more decorative look, as you can see. And some people don't like that. The alternative, and the reason why you do this, is that you end up with a slight gap between your flooring sometimes and your trim. The alternative is fill in a small strip. The alternative is to fill in a small strip of mortar or grout, or even more tile, depending on what you have. I think I'm using the 1/4 inch quarter round, and the next size I think was a 1/2 inch quarter round. And I don't know if it comes in other dimensions also or not. We picked up 8-foot lengths. They're real handy because you can get them right in your car and stick them in and not get all rained on. I have to pick up about 110 feet for the rest of the house because at some point the wood floors were replaced and there's gaps around the edges with the wood trim because the wood trim doesn't come out as far. So the only way to avoid this, the only other way to avoid this is to take this trim off before you put your floor in and put this on. Now my husband installed all this. When I've taken off his trim work before, when I did the bathroom, he nails it on so good that I just destroy it trying to take it off. So I've already cut this to measure. Some people like a blunt end on the end and some people like a beveled end or a 45-degree on the end. Because the wall trim is butting up against a door trim, I keep it straight right there. And of course you have to do 45-degree angles everywhere else. So I've got this real tight in the corner, and I think I'm going to start nailing it in the corner to make sure that it stays put. So that's it on the floor job, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.